It is 12:59. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Monster trade within the AFC as the Chiefs sent six-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks laid out by Adam Schefter, a 2022 first-round pick, a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and a fourth and sixth-round pick in the 2023 draft. As for the contract details, the Dolphins are giving Hill a 4-year, $120 million extension, including over $72 million of it guaranteed. Titans moved some money around today, not $72 million, but converted nearly $11 million of all-pro safety Kevin Byard's salary into a signing bonus, creating almost $9 million in cap space. That was per Field Yates. The team also officially announced the acquisition of wide receiver Robert Woods from the LA Rams. Woods spoke to the media moments ago for the first time as a Titan. He will wear the number 2 in two-tone blue. The team also announced a 1-year deal with linebacker Dylan Cole, who spent last season with the team as a special teamer. Another NFL free agency news from earlier today, former New Orleans Saints offensive tackle Teron Armstead agreed to a 5-year deal with the Miami Dolphins worth up to $87.5 million, including over $43 million guaranteed. A busy Wednesday for Miami. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Let's do this, Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. What's up, everybody? Good to be back with you on this hump day. Had to spend a couple days in Arkansas with some family stuff, and good to be back with my radio family here and all of you guys. And some people reached out and tweeted or whatever, sent messages. So I appreciate anybody who did that. And
we need to thank Rhett for doing a great job for trying to be Mickey Ryan. I mean, Rhett Ryan.
Absolutely. Rhett Bryan, the utility guy of all time. No matter what you ask him to do, he can do it. He just stepped right in, and it was seamless and made the show better for a couple of days.
That player that I always talk about that is multiple. He could do a vast array of a lot of really sharp things. So there, man. That way you never die. You're always around, and you always have a job.
Oh, he's irreplaceable. Yeah.
It's like being a DB. You can play safety, you can play corner, you can play nickel, dime. You take the special team. They can't get rid of me. They need me. See? But if you can only just play corner, well, I lost a little inch of speed. Bye-bye. You want to play special teams? Bye-bye. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the greats are guys like Ronnie Lott and Rod Woodson, who were like, "Oh, that's fine." They have a Hall of Fame career at 2 positions.
Yeah. That is phenomenal. And by the way, I really felt for Rod. Me and Rod was talking about this during the combine because we read each other, 2 Indiana guys.
Your twin.
Wayne. Yeah, I wish I reached his level. He was kind of my idol to look up to at the time growing up. He was just a handful of years ahead of me. But was that they had the best athletes of all time. And they had the top 10, Nash Dion, and everybody. People forget Rod Woodson. He should have been on the list and not at the bottom, like in the middle of this thing. And I asked him about it. He said, "Yeah, man, I had to respond to that. I'm right over." He waved here. Yeah. And I'm like, people don't understand. This guy played corner, returned punts, kicks. He could have played wide receiver. He was literally at the time the best defensive back of all time, and then Dion comes along, and then it's kind of who's the better all-around player, then he tears his ACL, and then he kind of just becomes just a corner and then stop returning kicks and everything else. But he played after tearing an ACL in one season. He played in the Super Bowl. He missed half of the season and played in the Super Bowl. So it's just kind of interesting how you kind of get forgotten as time goes by. But we never forget about you though, Mickey, man. We were all just thankful that everything's good in the fan with you and your mom, and glad to have you back, man.
Well, if people wonder where I come from, this is a real thing that happened in the hospital. I know there's a lot to get to with Tyreek Hill and everything else, but just to kind of tell you what I was dealing with. So my mother's in the hospital, and they're trying to fix a specific thing, and so they send a physical therapist in. Can you raise your arms? Yes, I can raise my arms. Can you push against me? Yes, I can push against you. And can you raise your legs? Yes. And she's like, "Look, can I just tell you something, and then maybe that could end all this if you're worried about my strength?" And the guy goes, "Well, I don't know. What is you going to tell me?" And she goes, I was using a chainsaw the day I came in the hospital. Now, my entrance to the hospital had nothing to do with it, but if I can use a chainsaw, I think I'm okay.
Oh, man. So your mom was out there.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
man.
don't mess around in the country.
I've never used a chainsaw.
I have a big scar on my leg from a chainsaw.
Chainsaw Massacre, that movie there. But, yeah, that's about it.
Well, if you got chainsaws, call the hitman, put your Poulan in his hands, and let him go out and chop some wood with you.
I don't know, man. I think I may be scared. I'm afraid that thing get out of control.
Oh, no, it'll get you.
Yeah, that's why I leave all things that's a threat to get me, man. Enough people got me when I was out on the field. That's it.
The Dolphins got Tyreek Hill today. They traded everything but a chainsaw. Can you believe this? This is not a quarterback. They traded 5 picks for him. This all happened during the second hour of Buck's show. I guess in the first hour, the news breaks. Tyreek Hill has been given permission to shop a trade, which means how long ago? That means it didn't just happen. It had been happening. And the news finally broke. Well, they said it was the Dolphins and the Jets who were in the running for him. Well, I mean, before I could get in the car and drive up here, the whole story had changed. The Dolphins traded for him. Tom Pelissero, Lucas, you can make sure I'm saying this right. A 2022 first rounder, a 2022 second rounder, a 2022 fourth rounder, and then a fourth and a sixth in 2023.
You got it.
And then the extension numbers, I've seen 2 different things. I guess we had this discussion before we came in. Like, how much was left on his contract with Kansas City? It looked like it was 1 more year. It looked like he was going to be a free agent after 2023.
So this is basically a 5-year 120. Or no, more than that, because it's based off of he had 1 more contract, a year left on the contract.
So he'll be making 120 over 4 years, but they extended 3 years to his current deal.
Oh, I got you. That's how it works. Okay.
So the extension was 3 years and 75? And then the total value, I guess, of everything, he'll be under contract. This was all Tom Pelissero, I think. He'll be under contract through the 2025 season at almost $24 million per year.
Yeah, total value is 4 years, $120 million.
Okay.
It's a lot of moving parts.
Well, that still doesn't equal Devontae Adams as far as pay. But they did give up more for him, though, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to dig
they
up
just gave up a first and a second, man. That was kind of crazy. And you know what I bet happened? I bet they were negotiating an extension. I'm just guessing. I don't have any insight on insider information and anything else. But this happens all the time where players are trying to get an extension. All of a sudden, you start seeing all these other players get more money, and Tyreek Hill's going, well, shoot, I'm better than him.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm as good as him. I think Tyreek Hill saying I'm better than him. But and he has every right to say that. Yeah. And I'm with the best quarterback. So I got to get more than $28 million a year. And they go, no can do. So we're going to shop you. And then we're going to move. And you go, all right, well, as long as they make sure they're going to pay me, I'm good to go. Sometimes you got to go. As well as it's a lot of receivers coming out. Naturally, Tyreek Hill's really good. But someone who can, let's say, equal his speed, maybe not his playability, is Hardman, who came from Georgia. His speed, his straight line speed is up there with the best of them now. Nobody's quickness, lateral quickness is going to equal Tyreek Hill. I mean, there's nobody like him. But his vertical speed can be matched by Hardeman as far as just straight line speed. A lot of people, he may be a notch right, half a step behind him. And then you got receivers coming out all over the place. So, and then you got the scheme in the system and Mahomes and Andy Reid, and they think they could keep that thing moving. Even when you're the best of the best, because they go, you know what, this is going to be a problem next year. You know what, he may hold out. How about let's just get rid of this problem now? Wow. So I'm not surprised at all.
And Mahomes is, what are you going to be paying him in the later years of this deal? So you're just.
Oh, they don't even care. It's the quarterback. He's like a half.
So we've seen, what was Devontae Adams 5 for 141? Is that, I think that's what his was, which is Blaine said was 28 per.
Yeah, it was 28.
We had this discussion last week, and maybe you guys have talked about it some this week. These are 2 of the top receivers in the league getting done. So if you're AJ's agent, are you like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and just call John Robinson today and just tell him, okay, the bar is getting set out there if you guys want to go ahead and send something our way. At what point, I wonder if the Titans think, okay, well, these are the 2 biggest guys. The market's going to be set for a while. Or are you thinking, oh, gosh, what's the next guy going to get?
the market is never set.
Right.
Yeah, you can say those are the highest guys, and then they can use that in negotiations. But at the end of the day, if it's 2 years down the road and you go, well, that was 2 years ago, the market is different today. So that's why I'm a proponent for Big Jeff and AJ Brown. To me, will be done before the season starts. Like, it's no priority, like, immediate, but I want to start slowly having those conversations like, hey, we want to get something done. We kind of get some parameters, just slow play, because you got all these other things that are much more important at this point in time with free agency and then the draft, and then you kind of go from there. You take a breather, as a staff and, GM, and then you move forward. And those are the two things I would be addressing probably right before training camp and throughout training camp for me personally, since they do still have 1 more years on their deal. But the number is just going to keep getting higher for these guys. Now, one thing I can say is Big Jeff is in a different category. To me, he's the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
I would just say A.J. Brown is just my observation. Great player, but I would just say there's Pro Bowl level and then elite of the elite.
Okay.
And I don't think he's in that group with the Tyreek Hills, Devontae Adams. I think he's right the notch below that. So you say, where does that put him as far as pay if you were paying him today? And I would have to be saying that he may be around $20 million. The number keeps going up because at first I was thinking 18, 19.
Well, I remember.
Now I'm at 20. See how that just happened?
I think it has to be 20 now, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then Big Jeff is going to be 20 or more. That just is the low end is going to be 20 for him. They just because the elite level D tackles is just they're one of a kind. Like they're not a whole lot of them. You can get a whole lot of really good ones, but for me, Big Jeff, when you got somebody with that kind of talent, it's just very rare. And then who continues to develop, who's also a leader. And he's growing into that leadership. He's growing his game. He still has a bar that's still really high. This is why people take risk on super talented players that haven't reached it because their ceiling hasn't been reaching. You just never know how high it can go when you're a super duper athlete and you're a first round pick. And they're lucky to have him, really. They got a break naturally. Once again, this is one of the ones where an injury paid off for John Robinson in taking injured players, whether it's via draft or free agency. And he has come through with flying colors. And, man, I think he's going to be a household name like Aaron Donald to be talked about for a while.
It's interesting, though, to hear you say that because AJ's the best receiver that they found around here in years. We always go back to Drew Bennett and Derek Mason. Literally, that's the conversation until now that AJ's in it. But like you said, he's not a guy or part of a group of guys. Like Big Jeff literally has a chance to be literally that guy at his position.
It's scary to kind of think about that. I mean, and I'm not
like
trying to
about Ron
disparage
Woodson,
AJ
how
Brown.
he was.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, during their era, or right now, people would say Jalen Ramsey at DB or whoever you want to put, Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. All those dominoes is like, okay, where's the pecking order? You're the top 10 player in the NFL at your position, and you go, well, where does that put you as far as pay? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because sometimes skilled position guys get paid more than a guy that's a D tackle. But I just think Big Jeff is he's given us enough of a glimpse of his domination. Like, just imagine if he's done halves where he's got like 3 sacks. I don't think I've ever seen a D tackle get 3 sacks in a half. And I've been playing and watching for a long time. Aaron Donald. Yeah. Oh, well, see, that's what I said. He's kind of one of one. I mean,
that's his comp.
That's it. Two differently built guys.
Yes.
Two differently built guys.
Yes.
But the results are the same. So in A.J. Brown is, man, he's the best probably, and I don't like to say the best, but he's getting close to being, a couple more years of this kind of production. He's going to be up there with the best to play in the Titans history. And it first starts with, Mason, Derek Mason, who, did some really fabulous things. So, but he's creeping up there. And if he just stays healthy and just keeps this kind of production, I think it'll be hard to stop because I don't see anybody slowing him.
Nick says A.J. Brown would be elite if they threw to him more.
that could be
That's in the Zone
possible.
TV chat.
And let me, I'm not saying he's not elite. I'm talking about elite of the best of the best.
Right, like Big
It's
Jeff we're
almost
talking
like being,
about.
I was a Pro Bowl player, but then there's the Hall of Fame players.
Right.
So there's just a different level. So I want to see him take it there. And to the, what he's saying there, if they throw to him more, he possibly could be in that group. Staying healthy and then getting the ball more. Yeah.
Well, we'll get into all this. Robert Woods, officially official. We'll hear from him later on the show. You can tweet us anytime. What would you pay A.J. Brown? Are you ready to get the extension done? Do they need to get this done? History says there's like a week in July, and I need to remember. I've got notes on it.
You all over that.
There's a week in July where they always extend people. It's 1 week. It's Taylor Lewan, several different guys. I think Delaney. They all got their extension in, and I'm holding this is radio, but I'm showing you a week.
Well, they can see you now.
Yeah, a week in July. There's a week in July where it all gets done. There's a segment coming up next, not in July, where we will talk with Dan Harralson of Vols Wire. Spring practice started yesterday.
Yeah.
So we got lots to get to with that. We'll also continue the NFL talk and more on Blaine and Mickey right here on Wednesday.
I'm waving like Tyreek Hill. Bye.
Bye. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. Dan Harralson set to join us here in just a minute from Vols Wire. Vols hitting the spring practice field. Hendon Hooker, I saw him. It's the season of lists right now, and I saw one the other day that had him. RJ and Phoenix asking the Zone TV chat, does Blaine have Vols orange on? You do have a nice orange shirt on today.
Yeah,
Super
well, see,
nice.
you can only wear the stuff like when it's sunny outside or something. So I went all Vols all the way, all in. Yeah, by the way, he's asking why did Derek Mason leave, because they didn't want to pay him.
That's why everybody leaves.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he wanted to be here, but I think he's up there as far as receiving numbers on both organizations.
Yeah, we look. He's number one for two teams. There are 32 teams.
Oh, is he?
And he's number one for two of them, Derek Mason.
Wow.
And never gets the credit he deserves. We give him credit all the time. You always give him credit, and me too. And you played with him, so you know how valuable he was to the team.
Evolve, being just a returner to proving not only is he more than a slot receiver, but he was an outside guy. Oh, he's not fast, and next thing you know, he's always beating people deep, and then it just kept he kept working on his craft. So, it's kind of great to see a player continually evolve and be. I think he's in the top 20 in all time in NFL history, by the way, of yardage based off his return yardage. I think he's kind of filtered down now. I think he was 19, but when he retired, he was in the top maybe 10 or 11. So now he keeps pushing himself down. So he's in 19. So it's pretty impressive just to say you played with somebody and then see them evolve and everything else. Great competitor and everything else. So
For the Titans Oilers, most career combined kick and punt return yards, most career punt. It would take me an afternoon to read all of his. These are just his. These are just his kickoff and punt return records.
Yeah,
it's a whole page of them.
Yeah, he was special, man. He was special in more than just returner, because people don't even know the story. Like, he was here like 3 years, and then they traded him. They traded him to the Chargers, and then he flunked the physical because he needed his knee scoped, and so that got him back here. And then, which happened in a matter of a week, and we were off season, so it didn't really matter. And then that's how we got to keep him. And then his career flourished after that as far as a receiver, not just as a returner. So we're very fortunate to even have him.
No doubt. Fortunate to have Dan Harralson, who joins us now on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Dan, how in the world are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm just staying busy. I was telling Lucas coming in here that, a lot of stuff going on Rocky Top. We just finished up basketball, and baseball's pretty hot right now. And, of course, spring football practices started up yesterday for the second year of Josh Heupel as head coach. So a lot going on at Tennessee.
Well, and maybe the biggest thing that's going on is with a guy who won't play it down in football at Tennessee for a while, but let's just call him Nico. Has committed to the Vols, and oh my goodness, the hype machine is in full swing now after a guy like that lands with your program.
It is, and he's maybe has 1 inch. If you look at the services out there that put the height and weights together for these guys, it looks like he's got 1 inch and the same weight, 1 inch taller than Taven Jackson, who made his debut at quarterback yesterday for Tennessee during that first spring practice. Of course, a 4-star quarterback out of Indianapolis in high school there in Indiana. He was in a similar type offense that Josh Heupel runs at Tennessee. So there's a lot of hype around him, and his job over the course of 24 hours got pretty intense. And for a guy that a lot of hype for Ia Ama Lieva, I guess that's how you say it, to come in this time next year, because with Nico coming in, you would fully expect, especially with Hendon Hooker departing at that point, that it's going to come down to a guy like Taven and Nico for that job early on in 2023.
Well, to add to that, where's Joe Milton? Doesn't he have a couple more years?
He's still there. And Joe Milton's still there.
He has a couple more years, or is that not right?
Hey, he's still holding down the number 2 spot until somebody takes it from him. So maybe Taven can, with these 15 spring practices, some 7-on-7 work this summer, and then fall training camp, maybe he can take that nod and get that second spot. But right now, Joe Milton's got it. I mean, I hope we don't see it, but one injury away pretty much from being QB1 again if something were to happen to Hendon.
I was trying to figure out how many more years he has left there, Dan. Do you know?
He's listed redshirt junior, I do believe.
So he's got this year and next
and
year.
I think that's factoring the COVID situation. So I think he's got this year and next year if he wants it.
The amazing thing about him is just he can throw it a mile. I'm just not sure if he knows exactly where it's going to go. But his arm strength is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt.
That's the thing. He just can't put touch on it, and I think that's why they like Nico so much because he's got a cannon himself. And Taven Jackson's got a pretty good cannon, not as big as Nico's, but Taven's really good at the intermediate stuff, some post routes, all that good stuff. It probably has a little bit better wheels than Nico, but Nico can put touch on it, and that's something Joe Milton doesn't have. And I think he really does adapt pretty well into this offense because what Josh Heupel wants to do, he wants to take those vertical shots. He wants his quarterback to pretty much be a Dylan Gabriel type, to stand in that pocket, kind of read the defense and have that ground game with counter and trap type plays with his running backs. So I think, whether or not he received a lot of money, NIL, to come to Tennessee, I think it's well worth it to roll the dice in the climate that we're in college football.
Dan Harralson getting tons of NIL money to join us here on Blaine and Mickey today, managing editor from Vols Wire with the USA Today.
No doubt about it. Thanks for coming on, Dan. I guess on the Nico situation, I mean, I'm going to say Peyton Manning, but maybe it's a different time and era. But, man, for the hype and attention, this may be the biggest named player in the recruiting history. Well, kind of take me back through the history here because maybe it's just got social media too as well. But who else was a big 5-star recruit at quarterback? Let's just say that position that really garnered all this attention and hype.
I think it may have been 247 that put it out there that he's the highest ranked quarterback for Tennessee to get since 2002. And you start looking back at 2002. Of course, Casey Clausen was already at Tennessee at that point. I think it was James Banks. That was that 5-star back then. Of course, he didn't have the best Tennessee career. I think he spent time at wide receiver. Actually, I think he caught that Hail Mary against Florida back in 2003, right before halftime when they won down there at the Swamp. But his career didn't really pan out. Maybe that had to do with Casey Clausen being so effective and holding down that QB1 spot during the early part of his Tennessee career. But outside the quarterback position, you look at a guy like Bryce Brown, 2009, when Kiffin comes in.
Running back.
Yeah, I think if you look at 247, he may be one of the top, highest guys, not just Tennessee related, but like in their all-time database or whatnot. So, and the thing about Bryce, he didn't sign with Tennessee. He didn't go through the early signing period. I think it was kind of late, like a few months later. It was kind of weird how the timing of that played out.
Well, with Darren Harrelson, I guess the NIL, a lot of people are speculating, but all the universities, especially the big programs, that was looking at him. How much do you think that kind of factored in that maybe what Tennessee's, nobody's talking about it, but helped them actually close the deal with him going to Tennessee? Or do you think it was a factor at all?
I think it was a combination of him liking Josh Heupel's offense. He mentioned to one of the guys that did a recruiting story on him that he loved the city of Knoxville, the vibe around the city of Knoxville, and being at the basketball game, packed out at Thompson-Boling Arena. I think that was the Auburn game where they beat Bruce Pearl. And just the combination of those things, and then you, of course, add any NIL situation into that, and I think it's just the perfect storm. I think Oregon was probably recruiting him the hardest, and maybe that coaching change that they had kind of changed things up for him a little bit to look elsewhere. But, credit to Josh Heupel and guys like Joey Halsley to really go about it and land him. Obviously, he has not signed, but when you look at quarterback commits throughout time, they usually are kind of solid on their commitment to go ahead and get things done eventually in the early signing period and then be a quarterback enrollee next spring. So I just think it's huge, whether he pans out or not, which he most likely will. He's going to attract a lot of other recruits with him, whoever that may be. And it gets Tennessee's name recognition out there, especially what Josh Heupel's trying to do right now with his offense.
Well, with Dan Harralson of Vols Wire of USA Today.
Dan, spring training underway in Knoxville. I saw a bunch of practice stuff on my timeline yesterday. Let's start with this. Who's a wild card player that you're looking at who could maybe emerge and really start to carve out a role this spring, maybe that could come sort of from out of the blue?
Well, that's a good question, and I think you kind of look at wide receiver, and I don't know if he's going to finally come into fruition, but you look at a guy like Ramel Keaton, who has a great opportunity to really step up, and Josh Heupel mentioned this yesterday about the wide receivers group that, hey, this time last year we needed someone to emerge. Obviously they had Bayless, but they were looking for other guys to emerge, and Cedric Tillman answered the bell, and he had, 1,000-yard receiving season last year, first time in forever, I guess, since Justin Hunter was at Tennessee. So Ramel has a chance to really kind of duplicate or replicate what he was able to do last year in Tillman. And you look at, I think his name's Isaiah Nawar, who was committed to Tennessee, and maybe some NIL money got him to sign with Texas eventually. Yeah. Him not coming kind of helps him out to kind of fill that spot. Maybe that was a wake-up call for him, but I definitely think somebody like Ramel Keaton, and sticking with the wide receiver group, we saw 4 guys yesterday. You look at Squirrel White, he's got a chance to be able to do something if Jalen Hyatt doesn't also step up this spring. It's a huge spring for him also. And Cam Miller, 6'1", 206, nice body size there as a freshman, getting some early work. Maybe he's got a shot to kind of leapfrog a guy like Ramel Keaton also. But I really like the young receivers there that they brought in, and of course those 4 guys will get a head start on some other guys going forward, being in spring practices.
Yeah, Squirrel, one of the all-time names. I'm hoping to see big things from Squirrel this year, hoping to see just so we can say his name a lot. So is the wide receiver room, because I'd written these 2 questions down, I was going to ask you the biggest storyline essentially for the team going into camp. I mean, I know there's a new wide receivers coach and they need some guys to step up, but is the wide receiver room sort of the biggest storyline and who steps up and how that looks? Or is there something else that you think stands out the most for this team going into spring football?
Yeah, I think defense is kind of all over the place. I think they're hitting some injuries or whatnot right now too. So it's kind of thin like linebacker was last year during spring practice till they were able to get that worked out going into summer and fall camp. But I don't know. I think running back is kind of thin too, but the difference with running back, they've got guys like Jabari Small, who's definitely your number 1. You got Jalen Wright, who's going to be the number 2, and you got Justin Williams-Thomas, who debuted yesterday. He's 6'2", 210, so he's a little bit bigger top back. And then Lyness Whitehead, 6'2", 220, another big back. Hasn't really done much at Tennessee, so they're pretty thin right now. They do get Dylan Sampson, a quicker type back that Josh Heupel had, the type of running back that he had at UCF. He comes in the summer, so he's not getting that head start. So I think running back, you got 2 familiar faces with Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, who's going to factor in this season. But past that, it's kind of thin right there, and they got to get those young guys involved pretty quick.
Could there be the return of a familiar face, maybe, from Oklahoma?
Yeah, there's been some rumors.
Yeah, there's some chatter out there about.
I've heard about that. We'll see. I think he would be electric. But the thing about it, why, unless there's just something internally going on at Oklahoma, why would you leave Jeff Levy to come back to Tennessee unless you just wanted to be back with your old teammates? Because it's the same type offense. So there must be something up, or maybe he's just homesick. I don't know. But kind of interesting rumors out there.
Dan Harralson talking about all kinds of stuff with us here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Dan, you talked about the running back areas a little thin, man. I know some defensive backs, cornerbacks in particular, aren't practicing, whether I think it's for injuries. So I kind of take us through who's going to be, I guess, competing or filling those roles with all the guys missing. Kind of even go through the guys that may be missing spring ball because of injury or surgery or whatever.
Right. You look at guys like Kamal Hayden, Warren Burrell, Brandon Turnage, Deshaun Rucker. Those are guys that could be missing some time due to injury, like you alluded to there this spring. So that definitely hurts. That's why I said it's kind of thin.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have guys like D. Williams and Christian Harrison, maybe Trell Riley to step up and get some valuable reps this spring also. So, yeah, it's a very thin group right now. I think that could actually benefit a couple of things. You hate to see guys be out with injury, but it allows your offense probably to have a little bit more flexibility to try some different things without your best players out there. And also it allows these guys that weren't going to get the 1 or 2 reps to move up and get those reps. So I think if you look at it in hindsight, I think it can actually be beneficial for this team as they try to piece things together.
Oh, no doubt about it. We're with Dan Harralson, Vols Wire of USA Today. And I guess lastly, have we finally got the linebacker position kind of solidified, let alone the O-line too? You lost some players there too. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the O-line and linebackers. What do you think about those positions?
Yeah, I think with the linebackers first, Jeremy Banks, he's back. Aaron Beasley, he's back. Both of those guys had a lot of good moments last year, but they can always get better. I think Beasley played better than Banks last year, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do as he continues to get better. And Beasley's interesting too because his time, I guess, last spring was altered due to some off-the-field stuff, so he's getting a full spring at it this spring, so that's good for him, especially in Tim Banks' defense. Juwan Mitchell's another one that can really, have 15 good practices here and continue to get better. Aaron Willis, Solon Page. And you look at the offensive line, I think it's a good group. I did see at left tackle yesterday they moved Darnell Wright to right. So he played left last year, moved to right yesterday, and they put Mincy in at left tackle, the transfer from Florida. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And, last year when Heupel kind of did stuff like that, he stuck with it. So I don't know if he's going to stick with Darnell at right. But, Mincy's a good body. He should be on either side as a bookend tackle, and it looks like he could be the starting left tackle for Tennessee.
Good stuff.
Dan, always appreciate you spending some time with us, man. At Dan Harralson on Twitter, Vols Wire. Also catch all of Dan's work there and sometimes with us here on Blaine and Mickey. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Always good to catch up with Dan. All right, we come back. A logo changed for a university down the road this weekend, and a bunch of people were talking about it. A lot of people were mad. Like mad. So I'm curious, if you're a Vandy fan, you want to talk about this, we'll give you a little time next, 615-737-1045 on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. You can hit us at Blaine and Mickey on Twitter and the Zone TV chat. I wanted to get into the logo thing just a little bit because a lot of people are talking about this. That's next on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. So I was a little out of pocket the last couple of days, but I did notice this. Vanderbilt changed their logo, and they tweeted out a big story, and then they had a video with all the coaches today just saying how great it was to have a new logo. And I'll just tell you this, coaches could care less about a logo. That was just like somebody stuck a camera in their face and said, hey, coach, you got to talk about this logo. So let's talk about the logo and just say some good stuff, and then we'll edit whatever we need. And it's such an expenditure of time and money. And it's not necessarily because people go, well, I mean, nobody from Vanderbilt designed this. Where does the time go to? Well, there's committees and things that you sit in, and people have to talk about it. So there is some time involved, even if you didn't design it in-house. There's time that goes to it. And somebody said, well, what is the money? What does it matter? Well, it does cost money to contract. Like if Blaine's a graphic designer and I'm like, hey, Blaine, make us a new logo. Let's see what
$2 million.
See what okay. You name your price. $2
million.
So
Vanderbilt, man.
So
I looked at endowment, man. I mean, your money, man.
Well, I mean, I know. Yeah, I mean, you can peel a couple hundred G's or whatever out of your endowment to pay for whatever this costs. But here's the thing: this is like. Am I right, Lucas? This and Blaine. This is the whole university's logo right now.
Oh yeah,
it's everybody's.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this: every envelope that's got the old logo, not any good anymore. Every piece of letterhead, every T-shirt, everything that has an old logo is now obsolete. Every jersey, every helmet, every hat, every piece of clothing, everything that you got with old logos is now obsolete. So when you get into expenditures, it's like, well, then everything has to be replaced. Well, guess what? Probably got the old logos painted on your courts. Got to change that. Can't have an old logo on your court. Probably got it on your football field. Got to go cut the turf and put the new logo on there. Probably got it all over your stadiums. Okay, got to send somebody down there with graphics to cover it up or paint over.
You act like it's an issue with money. That is not. I mean, that's not Ball State. I think they can replace all the things you're talking about. You can paint helmets. Now the old gear. Naturally, I think this is a branding issue. I know everybody doesn't like it. I'm gonna just say this. I don't mind it at all, actually, for me personally. I haven't heard either one of you guys' opinion. I think this is a branding issue. I think it has to do with they've had this logo for a long time, and then now that brand, it doesn't just disappear. You want it to be historic. You want to have those old materials around because then people would say we were part of this generation and we're starting a new era. A lot of it has to start with that right there, right? Mm-hmm. New AD, new different people in place as the president. So, I mean, all those things happen, and then you want to put your stamp on this is what the new Vandy is. Whether you like it or you're all gung-ho for it and everything else, I get it. If you think it looks better or not. But for me, it's a branding issue. So when I look at it from a professional level and making money, I thought it was a great idea. What it looks like doesn't even matter to me, really. It's not horrific. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's the V. It's a stamp of this is a V. You got the old and the new. Guess what? Old people who still like the old logo, they could continue to buy it because guess what? We want to get rid of those things. Matter of fact, we may even give them away to charity to get the logo still out there and all over the place. But now we're starting a new era. So for the people been out of shape, I think it's a lot of people who just don't like change. It's like anything else. Mm-hmm. It's not like it was horrible to me. I just like, it's okay. And make no big deal. But guess what? They started a whole new brand. It's no different than when the Titans moved here and everybody said, no, it needs to be the Titan logo in the Titan city in the state of Tennessee. So you could say, oh, yeah, remember, nobody really liked the Titans logo initially. People must act like they have short-term memory. Nobody liked it, and all of a sudden it kind of grew on them, right? Yeah. So that's kind of, it's like change, anything else. Nobody likes a UT when they went gray uniforms. I thought they were unique, but I understand the history there and what goes into it. But guess what? That's also a thing we need to look at. They're going to do it for these kids, too, because it brings excitement. We're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So nobody likes change who's an alum that's older and like, oh, man, you're messing up with the brand. It's not like they changed their tradition. It was just for a game or two or wearing the black jersey. So that's kind of how I looked at it. So for the people to be up in arms, I get it, especially the people who I probably had no idea there was going to be a change. I thought it was exciting and new, and whether I liked it or not, it didn't make me go, oh, man, I love the logo. I go, oh, man, they're starting a new branding deal here at Vanderbilt. That's kind of how I took it.
I think it goes to what one of the first things you said was newer president, new athletic director, new coaches in different sports. Jerry Stackhouse still kind of Shea Ralph new year one. Obviously, Clark Lee trying to get things going.
Did the Titans get new uniforms too?
They did.
Yeah, mine are outdated, right? When I played.
You played the throwback. Two throwbacks.
Yeah, new owner, huh? See, those same things go on when you want to start your whole new process of your brand in your era and your legacy of when you're starting something that's big. That's all what this is about to me.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right. It's newer people in charge wanting to put their stamp on
And
things.
by the way, my wife got a grad degree from Owen Business School from Vanderbilt, and she could care less. And that's typical most Vandy people. They're not an enthusiastic fan base in sports.
Yeah.
So for me, just getting a nod, I just think she's like, oh, yeah, it didn't matter. Didn't really matter. So I think that's how a lot of the Vandy people, the small people who are voicing, there's, loyal fans that's been around for a long time, and I get it. Completely understand. What about you, Lucas? I know a lot of people hated it.
Yeah, I think it's first of all, I really liked the old logo. Like, I know I'm a Tennessee alum, and I talk a lot about Vanderbilt athletics, but I've always thought their logo and their color scheme, I've always said I've always enjoyed it. I thought they were really cool, some of the best in the SEC. But I think the new logo is just too generic. I don't know. I feel like the logo is primarily used in athletics, right? I mean, that is primarily where a university's logo is displayed on athletics, T-shirts and hats and gear and helmets and basketball jerseys. So no matter how bad Vanderbilt is at football or basketball, if you're walking around in airport in Colorado wearing a Vanderbilt hat with the old logo and the star, most people that are sports fans know that's Vanderbilt. But I think with this one, it's so generic and just kind of the plain V that it could be anything, right? That could be some random school in New Jersey. That could be, Jim Wyatt was saying that today on the station, Valparaiso, Villanova,
Vermont. Yeah.
Vermont, some random high school somewhere. It could be anything. It's just too generic for me. And I just thought there was absolutely nothing wrong with the old logo. And I thought that was one of the redeeming things about Vanderbilt athletics, that lean into that instead of changing that is I guess how I would put it. It just felt so unnecessary. And like when I looked at the
pick up the hat right there, UT's hat right there. That is plain Jane. And just think, Vanderbilt is thinking we want to top them. Theirs is just as plain, just a T. We're going to be just the V. See? That's kind of when people will start looking at your competition and who you're competing, and they'll never be able to compete with the UT on any basis as far as sports, as far as logo and traditions and everything else in sports. So I think that's what they were thinking. I really do.
I just don't think Vanderbilt athletics is strong enough a brand.
It is not.
To have that be recognized, have a new logo be recognizable by people, right? If Alabama were to modify their logo, everybody would know about it. And everybody say, oh, you're wearing the new Alabama hat. But I just don't think Vanderbilt athletics as a brand is powerful enough to make that change.
And it goes back to my business side, though. Do you think it was before with the old one? Nope.
No, but people still recognize it.
But that's why the new legacy and the new people running things said we're going to start a new brand, and it's going to be recognizable. That's what they believe. If I was sitting there at the table with them, I believe that's what was going on. And that's everything to do with that and anything. Their logo, nobody thinks about Vanderbilt when you see the old logo. That's the whole point. Guess what? We're talking about it. Guess what? Now, guess what? We're talking about their logo. See, that's business, that's savvy, that's marketing, that's all of that. Don't forget now, people over Vandy, they're pretty smart. So,
well, they did just get themselves a segment with that logo.
Yep.
There you go. And got a lot of Twitter buzz about it this weekend. Mr. Shuckle in the Zone TV chat says they need to worry about fixing that dump they call the stadium instead of changing the logo.
Yeah. Now, I do agree with that. Right,
I mean, you just got other things. I lean along the lines of there are plenty of other things over there to focus on. Would kind of be the way I went as an athletic administrator.
You changed logos at Arkansas State, didn't you?
We had to.
Oh, yeah.
We only did it because we had to, but we've never tweaked the Wolf logo since we made it. But we were Indians. You couldn't be Indians anymore. We changed because we had to.
We tweaked our cardinal.
Your cardinal.
It's more jazzier and fancier.
You're supposed to say meaner.
I don't know about the cardinal being mean.
All right,
it looks like he can fly away, right?
Headlines when we come back on Blaine and Mickey.
It is 2:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Monster trade in the NFL earlier today. The Kansas City Chiefs send six-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks, a 2022 first rounder, a second rounder, a fourth rounder, and fourth and fifth round picks for the 2023 drafts. The Dolphins giving Hill a 4-year, $120 million extension, over $72 million of it guaranteed. The Titans announced the addition of their newest wide receiver earlier today in former Los Angeles Rams Robert Woods, acquired in a trade with the Rams for a 2023 sixth-round pick. Woods spoke to the media for the first time as a Titan, was asked about his ACL tear that happened back in November and a potential timetable for his return.
Had a clean tear, fortunately, nothing else involved with it, and really just trying to get back as fast as I can and healthy, obviously. No timetable, just right on track, getting strong, getting my strength, and when the team is ready for me to be out there, I'll be ready to go.
The team also announced a 1-year deal with linebacker Dylan Cole, who spent last season with the Titans as a special teamer. According to John Rothstein, Vanderbilt is losing an assistant coach on the basketball floor as Ed Conroy has been hired as the next head coach at the Citadel the day after Vanderbilt's basketball season comes to an end at 19-17 with a 75-73 loss to Xavier in the NIT quarterfinals. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone, hour number 2 of the show. We asked a question in the last hour, just basically, what do you think about Vanderbilt's new logo? Prometheus said Cornelius is rolling over in his grave. Cece says a new logo doesn't fix everything wrong with athletics at Vandy.
Nope, it doesn't.
Several people weighing in on this, actually a whole lot of people. We'll get to all the headlines. The Robert Woods trade became official today. He actually spoke, and really interesting press conference from him. He was on the microphone for over 20 minutes, but that deal obviously officially done, him speaking to the Titans media today. The Dolphins have traded for Tyreek Hill. So literally, if this is something where you've been tied up or you've been busy at work or whatever, and you've seen no sports, and I know you got Twitter and a phone in your hand, but if you're just getting in the car, this news started to come out, guys, around noon or so, that there could be a trade market for Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs had given him permission.
I had no idea that was happening.
Nope.
It happened very quickly.
And what, 30?
So that means it was happening before we knew it.
Oh, heck yeah.
And Hill had put out like some subliminal tweets, right? It's been fun.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, that was like 2 weeks ago about like it's been fun, Chiefs Nation, whatever, Kingdom, whatever they call it.
I didn't know that.
Chiefs Kingdom.
But as far as the reporting, that all transpired within a couple of hours today.
Wow.
So he got traded for more people than Devontae Adams. He got people.
I like
more people. Well, draft picks are people too, Blaine.
They are. I just never heard it referenced that way.
He got traded for so many people. A 2022 first rounder
to Kansas City.
5 people who are future people. They're not people yet, but they will be people. People helping people.
Right.
A 2022 first rounder, second rounder, and fourth rounder, and a 2023 fourth rounder and sixth rounder. And then they immediately extended his contract, which by, I think it was Tom Pelissero, accounted for this. It's going to turn out to be about $24 million per year overall. And this was on the heels of Devontae Adams, who got traded for less people but got paid more money by the Raiders.
28 mil.
So the top of the receiver market, at least for today, until something else happens, that's where it is now.
28 and 24?
Yeah, somewhere between 24 and 28, right?
Yeah.
And these are arguably, are these the two best guys?
I don't know the list. I mean, they got to be at the top. Well, I know Adams is at the top.
Yep.
I think they're two different style receivers.
Yep.
I would say the human joystick there, Tyreek Hill, man. He's a little different cat there, man. He's he's the guy that you were always saying the Titans should get, but there's just never going to be a guy like that in the NFL. He's just like on warp speed, on speed. And when I say speed, I'm talking about vertical speed as well as warp speed, lateral quickness.
Yeah.
There is no duplicate of him in the National Football League. We could talk about It's interesting that the Dolphins trade for him because I go, well, dang, Waddle's probably a poor man's him, just not as fast vertical, but quickness-wise, he could be somebody you could say, well, he's got the quicks. I believe that for sure, but not as, not like Tyreek Hill, but he doesn't have the vertical speed of Tyreek Hill. I think he's maybe even a little bit more better a route runner than Tyreek Hill because, sometimes the players that have all these gifts aren't especially adept at running great routes. A good example of that, different players in their style, but Randy Moss was not a great route runner.
Yeah.
He was just a vertical speed guy, so everybody feared his speed. I'm lining up out there. I'm like, I got to take a couple steps back before this ball is snapped because I don't want to get in the foot race. And
how legit fast was he, though? Even when you knew it was coming, how fast was it?
Oh, it was out of control.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just when I say, Coach Mack was on yesterday. He said I didn't fear anybody because I was like, I kind of feared, Matty Ice going to. He said, Blaine, you didn't fear anybody. I said, well, the fan in me definitely fears Matty Ice. So the player in me, when I say I took a couple steps back, I'm watching tape and I'm not going to be ding dong and say, oh, no, he can't run by me. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm going to take a couple steps back. I'm going to let him catch this little curl, and I'm going to come up and make tackle. Guess what? We could live for another down.
Sure.
But he ain't running by me, let alone he, caught like a nice little one-hand, touchdown on me a time or two.
Well, you and other people, too. He had more catches like that where the ball just seemed to stick to him than anybody.
So he was a phenomenal athlete with vertical speed off the charts. And I would say that's Tyreek Hill in both fashions. So I think he's a tougher cover, but, Devontae Adams, his route running is on par. He has speed. I want to give him the quickness level. Tyreek Hill is like a human joystick. He's like a video game. This guy's different, man. I can't even find anybody in the history of the game that's like him. Like, really. Maybe I'm just missing somebody, but I can't. So I think they got tired of him probably trying to get a new contract and an extension, and this is what it led to, and they start making calls saying we're not going to put that kind of resources and money into that position, and we'll get another receiver. And we have some guys here. Mekhi Hartman is from Georgia, is a pretty fast guy. Nobody's going to beat Tyreek Hill, but in their system, they can throw the ball around the yard. You got speed, you'll be valuable.
Maybe they'll just have two or three guys that they try to fill. Try to fill it roles.
They lost another receiver too, so they're gonna be in the market for some receivers.
Yeah. They who did they just sign? They signed
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Juju Smith-Schuster, yeah.
See?
So, boy.
And watch this. Juju Smith-Schuster is nowhere near Tyreek Hill.
No.
It's just it's not even close.
Travis Kelce's wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Well, his numbers are going to be astronomical.
Right. And see that becomes a problem. That is an issue. The tight end cannot be your best receiving threat. To think that you're going to have success.
Right.
And when I'm talking about success, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because that's the standard now for them.
That's their only standard now.
Right. So the tight end, I know there's a lot of elite ones, and he's one of them, but that cannot be, you got to have somebody that's more than just a good receiver, starting receiver in this league. You got to have another viable threat in the passing game.
Vandy has a viable threat with their new logo. We talked about it at the end of hour number 1. Jim from Brentwood wanted to check in on this. We've gotten a bunch
Jim
of
Wyatt?
Maybe it is. Let's see which Jim it is. Hey, Jim, what's going on?
How are you guys today?
Good. How are you?
Great.
I'm just wonderful. So y'all been talking about the new logo, which if you look at the baseball team hats and helmets that they wear, they already have just the V on them. They've been that way for a while. I mean, their official logo is the V inside the star. But I think, we got to pull that one into the discussion.
Yep.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. I should have remembered that as I was talking. I definitely knew that, being that I go to some of their games. So, yeah, that's on the uniforms and their helmet, their hats and everything. It's just the V. It's the block. So maybe that's where they got it. Man, so they paid somebody to give that to them? I thought they were smart. Man, it was right there in front of their eyes.
Niraj, and I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, sir, I apologize. Niraj, I think it's Niraj. It says to us on Twitter, I agree with that last guy. This is from the we were reading some of the quotes from Zone TV. Said, I agree with that last guy. Plenty of bad things of Vandy Sports, but the logo was unique. Nobody else used a star. You want to talk about branding? Star power was a cool motto. He said, this is overthinking for no reason. And Blaine nailed it. You gave a great take on it, and your
because
thing
there was no need to touch it.
It's new people in power, and it's their chance to put their stamp on it. And I told you this. I said, you and Lucas got to talk about it, and I really didn't. I would have fixed my facilities and won more games and put my teams back in the NCAA tournament basketball and got my football. And then maybe at that point, I would have addressed the logo. My thing would just be, let's have better facilities and play better.
Like if it's broke, don't fix it, right? There's a lot of things broken about Vanderbilt athletics.
And I never looked at the logo and thought, gosh, oh, my Lord, this is broke.
Completely agree with that. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But I'm just telling you what I think they were thinking.
Oh, I think you're 1,000% right. It's new people in power wanting to establish a whole new era. But then, and I get it, the basketball men and women made the postseason. They showed some great improvement this year. They did. They got better this year. But I think I would have held off on a new logo until I felt like things were really pushing in the right direction. And then there's a whole wave of excitement about it. Right now, it's just a bunch of people saying, so this is what's been going on? You know, you brought this up in the commercial break. We were told there was going to be all this expansion, right? And new stuff and build this and put this up and put that up. And all we know now is what the V is going to look like that gets painted on it when it gets put up eventually. So, yeah, I would lean more towards people are now focusing on Randy Moss in here.
Moss. I got Moss.
But I would have improved my facilities, and I would have improved my fan experience, and I would have definitely improved my student-athlete experience. There's a lot of things I would have improved before I worried about the logo that was on my hat.
Which we had no issue and nobody complains about it at all. Yeah, I completely agree.
Because I'm with you. It's new people. They wanted to put their stamp on it. I would have made that a secondary thing, too.
Didn't the Vols trying to do something like this? Not as far as the logo, but didn't they have to get rid of the Vol Walk? What, was that Lane Kiffin? Who was it that came in?
Dave Hart, the AD that preceded John Curry, tried to get rid of the Lady Vols.
Yeah, the Lady
Vols,
right.
Schools do that. Like Vanderbilt are not the Lady Commodores. They are the Vanderbilt Commodores. Right, that was it. And I get that. A lot of schools want to take that away.
At most schools, if you say that, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you say Lady anything, it's
you
perceived as bad. Don't do it.
You don't want that. But Tennessee Lady Vols, that's a different deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a very special place in Tennessee.
But if you're Dave
Hart,
history. All you got to do is walk down the hall.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
you didn't have to, and I like Dave. He was on with us a bunch. Don't do that, Dave.
It was a tone-deaf move.
Take the temperature of the room.
Yeah,
read
the Lady
room.
Vols fan base was outraged, and it didn't take long before Lady
So
Vols
why do you
back.
think he did that? He's not a ding dong now. He got to where he was for a reason.
Sure. Well,
why did he do it?
They grabbed him. He was an administrator at Alabama, and then ended up at Tennessee as the AD. And I'm sure it was a move that he saw as just as an athletic director, like big picture thing that he probably would have done at whatever school he was at. But just a tone-deaf move, not really recognizing how special the Lady Vols brand is to the university and to its fans.
So was this a tone-deaf move by Vandy? In prioritizing what should really be done first and foremost.
In a lot of ways, I have to say yes. Just because there's too many bows that aren't tied up over there. There's too many things that aren't done that need to be done. CC says exactly, Vandy, overthinking the logo and focusing on improving facilities and the fan experience, meaning fixing the logo instead of, how about some more bathrooms in the gym? We'll be right back. Jordan Dajani is next. I just need a place to pee. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Listen in the gym.
Wishing you.
I just read that.
Yes, Prometheus adds, how about air conditioning in your gym? We're talking about Vandy's logo, and several of you, this is the busiest Zone TV chat's been with us in a minute here. Jordan Dajani joins us now, CBS Sports. Jordan, I know you're a UT grad, but were you impressed by fellow SEC mate Vanderbilt's complete rebrand? I'm just curious of your thoughts on that.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I like the old logo, to be honest with you. I didn't think that it needed to be changed, and they put out this large statement saying that they have launched a refreshed visual identity designated to reflect the university's forward momentum, yada, yada. And I'm like, bro, I think you just changed the font of the thing.
That was a good one.
Let's chill out about what this update exactly means to your program and your university. But, I mean, I don't hate it as much as some other people, but it seems a bit unnecessary. And like I said, I like the old one.
Bro, I think you just changed the font. It's the best line on the show today. Tyreek Hill changed his font and his team to Miami. So we were joking about this earlier. Like at noon, the story starts to break that there's a possibility he could be traded and the Jets and the Dolphins are in play. And no sooner had anybody hit retweet on that than that dude got traded to the Dolphins for 5 people. Well, 5 future people. And then he got an extension.
Not picks, but people.
People. Well, the picks are people, Jordan.
I mean, yeah, I don't know where you want to start with this story. I think you started at a good spot, though, when you said that. As soon as the reports started coming through the wire, you could tell kind of in the tone of the text that, hey, there's 2 landing spots, and this is going to happen like this afternoon. So it was very surprising how quickly it came together. I was also very surprised that those were the 2 finalists, right? I was, when we're talking about a top-of-the-market wide receiver, why are the Green Bay Packers not involved? Why are the New England Patriots not involved?
Yeah.
It's between 2 guys that were, previously at the bottom of the AFC East. And the other thing that really surprised me is if I'm Tyreek Hill, I mean, it's not even a decision. I'd rather go to the Miami Dolphins over the New York Jets for many reasons. So, when it comes down to this trade just at large, though, I think the Chiefs did the right thing, especially considering the return they got. I mean, as you mentioned, 5 players, 5 picks, basically, in return for Tyreek Hill, who wanted to break records with the money he was receiving. If Kansas City didn't want to do that, well, I think they did a pretty solid job of getting something that was worthwhile in return for him. Somebody
said this in his own TV chat earlier, and they can chime back at me, and I'll give them credit for it, but basically saying that the Rams and Les Snead had kind of broken the NFL because everybody now is like, I'll just trade for everything. I don't need any picks. I'll just trade for everything now.
Yes, absolutely. That's fact. That's a good observation because, I mean, look at the past 2 wide receivers that have gotten paid. Devontae Adams got franchise tag. Well, he wasn't going to play on that. He wanted a record-breaking extension. So what the Packers did was trade him to another team that was willing to pay him, and we saw that today with Tyreek Hill. It's definitely an interesting philosophy. Not every team can necessarily find success this way because you have to be able to find immediate impact guys. But obviously the Rams found success, and I feel like the rest of the NFL definitely took note of that. So if there's a player, a prospect, a free agent out there, whatever it might be, then that you really want on your team, then go out and go get them.
Got Jordan Dajani, CBS Sports, hanging out with us, talking some NFL here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, thanks for coming on, Jordan, man. You're always entertaining. But, man, speaking of entertainment, did Aaron Rodgers get bamboozled? Or did he know that this possibly could happen and that they would kind of, after he signs, that they would move his guy, Devontae Adams?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, first of all, I mean, I wasn't shocked that Aaron Rodgers returned to Green Bay. I think that's something I've been pretty consistent in maintaining, on different shows that I went on. But what was surprising was that, reports came through the wire that when Aaron Rodgers was negotiating his record-breaking extension with the Packers, before the news broke that he was indeed going to return to the fold, he knew that his number 1 wide receiver was not going to be on a team with him anymore. I thought that was pretty surprising. And more importantly, I think that really shows you where Aaron Rodgers was leaning. Because let's imagine if he was truly 50-50-50, right? Retiring, go to the Broncos, or stay with the Packers. And all of a sudden, your franchise number one wide receiver is not going to be there anymore. Don't you think that would push him in a different direction? Well, I think it's pretty noteworthy that it didn't, and that he's still staying with the Packers. So my first thought was the same you had. I thought he might have been bamboozled, but it turns out that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers were very clear about what direction they were heading in when it came to Davante Adams.
Now, also on the Aaron Rodgers contract, I was looking through there. It could possibly be a one-year deal because they can get out of it, let alone he could retire or anything else, but they have to give him some money come first league, day of the league year. So I was like, whoa, this is not, I thought it was, it was going to be more of a 3-year 150, but nah, they can get out of it after 1 year.
Yeah, they can. I think we did a deep dive on the contract a few days ago, and as you guys know, a few days in this offseason feels like a few years. And the way it was constructed definitely was meant to help both parties in case something else went wrong, something that gives Aaron Rodgers more flexibility financially, but also if that he wants to hang up the cleats earlier than that, the Packers won't be necessarily hurt. So, from what I can tell, especially bringing up the Davante Adams saga, this was definitely an issue that the front office and Aaron Rodgers were totally in cahoots in working toward and working through when it came to establishing this contract.
No doubt about it. We're in with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS. And I guess one thing I want to address lastly here is, Matty Ice coming to the Colts, and then maybe even the speculation of Julio Jones reuniting. But just on the surface, Matty Ice to the Colts, how do you see that helping them? Because I'm getting a little nervous Purvis here because all they need is a couple pieces here, another receiver, a tackle. Their defense to me is pretty much set. Can you add some depth and everything else, or maybe, a cornerback here or there? But, from a Titans perspective, I think that's an upgrade. What are your thoughts?
Man, Blaine, I'm glad you asked me about this because it's something I feel like I've been arguing with people over for the past few days. I mean, I went on a radio show and had to debate a host over it. I've been talking to coworkers about it. I am not intimidated by the Matt Ryan signing. Okay. I think that it's a update or an upgrade in consistency when it comes to the quarterback position, but I don't think throwing him in the AFC South all of a sudden makes the Indianapolis Colts Super Bowl contenders. It's true that he's going to have a better offensive line. He's going to have a better wide receiving core than he did last year. But at the same time, is Matt Ryan at this stage of his career, I think he's 37 or about to be 37, is he going to be the quarterback that elevates your franchise so much so that you're hoisting a Lombardi at the end of the season? I don't think so. I think the Colts are a legitimate candidate to make the postseason, more likely than not, in my opinion, as a wild card. But when we talk about that postseason race that's going to come down to it next year, look at the AFC. It's incredibly stacked right now. So those postseason spots are going to come at a premium. And I'm just not scared of the Indianapolis Colts right now. I think they'll be a little bit improved, but I don't see them as a legitimate contender.
Well, with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
So, Jordan, where do you have the Titans in the AFC? I'm asking this just because I spent a couple of days hanging out in the hospital with a relative, so I saw a lot of TV. And I saw a whole lot of AFC top 5s and top 6s and top 7s. I guess, and no Titans in multiple of them.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm very scared of the AFC West. You could make an argument that all 4 maybe could be over the Titans at this point. I don't think I will say that. And then you look at the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, this is a team that made the Super Bowl last year and made 3 big additions along the offensive line. They probably earn our respect in terms of having them over the Tennessee Titans. So, I'll take the Bills over the Titans right now. I'll take the Bengals, I guess, to give them their respect. And in the AFC West, that's where I really don't know who to pick because I'm kind of out on the Chiefs right now. I'm leaning more towards even the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. So I think that you can make an argument that the Titans, if they are in the top 5, I might have them sitting right there on the fringe of the top 5.
Yes, a lot of people have moved them out of that. That's for sure. Your current mocked first-round pick for the Titans, if you had to walk to the podium today or if J-Rob was sending someone up there to make the pick, who do you think it would be right now?
Yeah, man, it's funny. These waves of this offseason, come and go. A few weeks ago, we were obsessed with mock drafts and the combine, and now it's all about quarterback movement. So I feel like I'm almost on the outside looking in once again. My mock draft is going to come out probably less than a month from now, so that's when I'll really start my research. But I think we're sitting in an interesting spot at 26, right? So that's a spot where you definitely can make your pick based depending on what happens with the board. How the board falls to you is when you're going to make your decision. So I've seen a lot of people been trying to mock linebackers to the Titans, and I feel like that's something that fans don't really like. But depending on the player, you could talk me into it. I'm looking at some of our CBS Sports draft experts right now. A couple guys have Treylon Burks from Arkansas. He's a physical specimen that would be fun.
Oh, that's Rhett Ryan's guy right there.
Yeah, he seems like a guy I'd want on my team. At the same time, I don't know. It depends on how the board falls, like I said. But they'd also offensive line is going to be a position that I'm sure the Titans front office is going to be talking about. There's a guy I've been trying to watch named Tyler Smith from Tulsa. He's a guy who's kind of versatile. I don't know exactly what player or what position he's going to play at the next level. But, of course, with the Titans releasing Rodgers Saffold, that's going to be something that's on their mind moving into draft week.
Would you be surprised if, I don't know, Matt Corral was there and they took him?
No. No, that's actually something that I've been thinking about and writing about for a couple months now. When I wrote about how to fix the Titans right after their Bengals loss, I said that the Titans needed to add a quarterback at least to provide some kind of level of competition for Ryan Tannehill. And that doesn't mean signing someone like Jameis Winston. I meant more of drafting like a rookie. So to be honest with you, listen, I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't talked to anybody and know the situation. But at the same time, I would not be shocked if the Titans spent that first-round pick on a quarterback, depending on how this board falls.
Jordan Dajani, our guest, CBS Sports, at Jordan Dajani on Twitter.
Well, Jordan, let's stay with the quarterbacks, and that is the ones that are left maybe out to dry, and that's Baker Mayfield and Jimmy G, man. What do you think is going to happen with these guys? Because if they end up having to release them, at least Cleveland, maybe even the 49ers, and I like that option as a backup to Tannehill.
Baker Mayfield?
If there are no options, you could be just somewhat like the Are you going to trade for him for the $18 million right now? Who's going to do that when you can wait till he's released?
Right,
that may get that to that.
Yeah.
Right. We're very close to that. The only potential landing spot right now is the Seattle Seahawks, and it's worth questioning their level of interest in him. And now the Browns are going to have to rethink what compensation they would accept for him as well. So we're getting very close to that. You know, the tunes aren't about to stop in this game of musical quarterback chairs we're playing. So when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, he's another interesting case because we've seen reports saying that GM John Lynch has an offer for 2 second rounds on the table for him. Well, that proved to be a lie because it hasn't come to fruition just yet. So the Carolina Panthers are definitely a legitimate candidate for Jimmy Garoppolo, but this is a team that also does not have to trade for a quarterback. They have a high first-round pick. I'm looking as more likely Carolina takes that first-round pick and takes Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis or whoever it may be. So Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, interestingly enough, might be the quarterback who's left without a team in the near future.
What was your favorite, I guess, trade or maybe even signing so far this offseason in free agency?
I'll give you two, and I may be a little biased with these. I really like the Robert Woods trade to Tennessee. And, you know, I got to be honest with you guys. I'm a little bit more excited for this transaction than I was with the Titans adding Julio Jones. And the reason being is because I thought Julio Jones' basement, in terms of worst-case scenario, is lower than what we'll get with Robert Woods. And sure enough, the Julio Jones transaction proved not to be a fruitful one. So I'm excited to see what Robert Woods can do because I feel like he's been an underrated wideout in the NFL over the past few years. Even though he's a veteran now, I still think he has tread left on the tires. I think he could be the true number 2 as we thought Julio would be in 2021. Now, the other transaction I'm very intrigued by, and I'm sure a lot of people listening right now agree with me. How about Marcus Mariota to the Atlanta Falcons? He has a chance to reinvent himself as a legitimate starter with a coach he's familiar with in Arthur Smith. I think Marcus Mariota deserves a shot like this, and I think he's also a new man, a new player who's kind of rejuvenated and ready to take another crack at it. So keep an eye on the Atlanta Falcons. I know that some people will have them as their second favorite team behind the Titans in 2022.
Man, when he got his part-time playing time there with the Raiders, He looked like a rejuvenated man because I saw him competing like I had never seen him do in his earlier years. Maybe he did with the Titans, so that's great for him and a good guy too. So I'm glad he's getting an opportunity. What did you think of the Malik Willis pro day, and did it help him or hurt him in this process? Did he move up in the board or did he just stay the same?
No, I think it helped him a lot. I think it moved him up the board, but I got to be honest with you, man. I don't like these guys throwing against air. Like, if you take a professional radio host and make him read a scripted ad, he's going to do it well, right? That's his job. If you take a quarterback and you make him throw against air under, routes that he already knows he's doing, he's going to look pretty solid. So, and that's exactly what happened. I remember when people were drooling over Zach Wilson throwing against no defenders at his pro day last year, and he didn't exactly have an incredible rookie campaign. But with all that being said, I think that Malik Willis is probably the most intriguing quarterback out of this class, just due to his versatility and his playmaking style. And that's why I think seeing him throw against air, and some of those deep balls were definitely pretty sexy. I think a lot of GMs and coaches really like what they saw out of him.
Well, give me your ranking of maybe the top 3 quarterbacks that's coming out. Where do you see them falling? Not as far as, in the draft, but just how do you see the number 1 player, 2, and 3 at quarterback?
Yeah, see, that's such a tough question because it's something I've been thinking about for the past few weeks, and I still don't know who I would put at number 1. I'm talking to guys in the know about Malik Willis, and some of them see him as the best quarterback in this class, and some people see him as somebody who would probably benefit in best-case scenario sitting behind a veteran for a year. So if you were giving me any choice of a quarterback right now, I think I'm just going to have to lean and be maybe a little bit safe and go with Kenny Pickett. I think he has a great chance to be the first guy off the board. At number 2, I'll take a chance on Malik Willis, who's left. And then I'm going to get Matt Corral, and then it's between Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell. I think, Sam Howell is a quarterback that I watched a lot of at UNC, and I feel like he never really lived up to the hype. People thought he was going to be a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate and take the Tar Heels to a level not seen before. That never really came to fruition. So Desmond Ridder, he leaves some to be desired when it comes to accuracy, throwing the ball down the field, in my opinion. But he is a physical specimen. He is a leader. He's a good man. He's a father. He's somebody I think that I could turn into a legitimate starting quarterback if I got my staff's hands on him.
Well, Jordan, we always love getting our hands on you every Wednesday, man. Appreciate the time today. People need to be following you, CBS Sports, and at Jordan Dajani on Twitter for all of the latest stuff. Thank you, sir. Have a great rest of the week.
Anytime, guys. Thank you so much again.
Yes, sir. He brought up Robert Woods. He loves the acquisition. What did Robert Woods say about his quarterback? What did he say? A lot of you have opinions about Ryan Tannehill. What did the Titans' newest wide receiver have to say about Ryan Tannehill? Also, what did he have to say about run blocking? Because you got to do that if you play receiver here. We got all that and more next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Interesting NFL note. Malcolm Butler has signed again with the Patriots. So for all the supposed beef between he and Belichick, remember about him sitting out in the
Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl and why he didn't play. Well,
he never did really ever say, like, he never bucked that.
Nope.
Like, why that happened.
Nothing.
I got to give him a lot of respect for that.
2 years and $9 million couldn't fix, I guess. But he's back in Belichick land. So Robert Woods is in Tennessee. Spoke to the media today. Of course, a lot of you would wonder, you have your thoughts on Ryan Tannehill. What does he think of Ryan Tannehill? This was what the Titans' newest wide receiver had to say about the Titans' quarterback.
Yeah, starting in Buffalo, I've seen him in Miami. I've seen what he's done, passing the ball. Always known that he is capable of making the throws, being able to be a 4,000-yard passer, being able to spread the ball around to many different receivers. Checked him out early, what he was doing with AJ, and I want to say a year with Corey when he was here. And really just him being able to feed off of the play action in the ground game and being able to do that same thing here. Be an open target, let him work off the ground game, and then being able to deliver the ball, whether it's downfield, feeding off the play action. I know he's an athletic quarterback and make some plays on the run. And I'm going to do my job, let him do his.
One of his jobs, if you're on this Titans team, and Mike Vrabel had actually, when the Titans played the Rams, he got into how well Robert Woods, there were quotes that came out about him talking about his blocking. This is what Robert Woods said when he was asked about, obviously, a very obvious Titans receiver job blocking for the King.
Yeah, we always talk about playing without the ball, being able to learn that in the league and being involved. It's kind of like, I don't know, when you see a basketball player, it's kind of like the guy without the ball. It's like you still have to be involved, move around. You can't just be standing there. It's kind of like the same thing in football. You can't be watching the play. And I feel like just being involved in the game, staying in tune, being able to get your running back free on the big runs, and really just being physical, setting the tone. When you come out there and be physical, you got guys who turn it down on the opposite side of the ball and don't want to be a part of that. And when you set the tone and you set the force, you're the one in control, and you're in control of the game.
So Titans got him blamed for a 6th-rounder in 2023. Trade was made official today. He tore his ACL last year in practice after playing 9 games. And he was basically asking about it. He said, yeah, I thought, I knew I'd done something. He said, so he went to his side field and was running and jumping and everything else, and only found out later that he had torn his ACL. Said it was a clean tear, though. So, he felt like that could help with his healing. He didn't offer anything on his timetable of return today. I looked this up because you and I keep talking about receivers, and I keep saying, I want a guy that can do this and this, and you've maintained all along, I want a guy that can do everything. I want a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. This guy, he played 45, Sports Illustrated had this. He played 45% of his snaps last year from the slot, and he played 54 outside, which left 1%, which I would imagine would be like maybe lining up in the backfield, because he has averaged a little over one carry for every game that he was in Los Angeles. So he had 70 carries in 68 games. So he plays outside, he plays inside, and you can do the Debo thing with him and just hand him the ball. He's that complete dude that you've been talking about.
Yeah. I said this yesterday. I know you were out, but when you model your receiver, at least the type of receivers that I would want on my team is a guy who's a great route runner, who can do multiple. He has enough speed to get deep, but that's not his stick. But he definitely gets by people. He can be the handoff guy if you need him to be that, and he can definitely be physical if he has to in the blocking game. I think those are the guys that end up playing in this league a really long time. So I like all the qualities now. Him being injured and how quickly can he get back and those things. But as far as the model of the type of receiver that I would be looking for, that's kind of the utility guy. That way you don't know what he's going to bring to the table, because there's going to be some games where you may feel like he is the guy that's the number one guy, but when really he is the complement to the number one guy because of all the things you do. I want my number one guy to be actually just a receiver guy, just go dominate and physically just wear people down, and that's and run after the catch and everything else, the yak. So, and he has that as well, the yak. So he's getting up there to 30, so he'll still have really some high level years. I'm interested to see how well he comes back from the injury. Clean or non-clean is still an ACL. I know some guys come back. I'm just not a real big proponent of expecting what you saw before exactly the same. But there are exceptions to the rule. So hopefully he had enough time because his was earlier to really get back to full speed. Because he's going to miss out on chemistry and all those things until training camp. And so those are things that are really valuable in my estimation in having connection with your quarterback. But one thing about him, and I said this yesterday, is that he pays attention to the details because he's an exceptional route runner. Is those guys usually connect quickly because they're all about the timing and everything else when they get the ball. So those guys usually kind of get those things ironed out pretty quickly. Where Julio was more this, I'm a phenomenal athlete. I just throw it up there and I'll get it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's God-given gifts. That's not paying attention to detail. And, I was never a big proponent of the Julio Jones trade. Much as I like him as a player, I wouldn't have gave up a second-round pick.
Well, they sure could have used a second-round pick this year.
Yeah, they may get it back. You never know.
Well, maybe. Trades happen. It's the craziest offseason ever in the NFL.
Or they could trade back and get 2 second-round picks. No, I want them to stay right there at 26 and draft that offensive lineman you've been wanting them to get. If they draft a tackle or a guard, are you going to say the same thing you said last year?
I'll throw a brick at my TV. The only thing that might make me throw a brick at my TV is you just signed a receiver with a torn ACL. If they also drafted Jameson Williams, and I know a bunch of people want him who also has a torn ACL, who tore his in January.
So you want him to pass on him if he's there?
If our window, that people keep saying it's a window, you can't just take everybody with a busted leg.
Well, you just said a quarterback at 26. He ain't playing this year, so you wasted your pick.
No, I'm not wasting any picks. I'm going to take Chris Olave if he's there.
Oh, okay.
Olave.
Okay, I like that. I like that. What'd you say?
Vrabel's at Ohio State Pro Day today.
Okay.
Oh, was
Lucas, with breaking news.
Ohio State tweeted out a picture of the football
fantastic.
Twitter.
Make sure Urban Meyer shows up to have some drinks with him afterwards.
They'll just go to his steakhouse
They
and
are
have a
buddies,
dance.
by the way.
All right, we got to dance our way out of here. Fun being back with everybody today.
No doubt. Good to have you back.
Yes, sir.
In the meantime, in between time, though.
Peace.